Why is personal branding important in today's economy? Most people think personal branding is about becoming famous. It's not. Some of the most successful business owners I've ever met have never gone viral, and they have a fairly small following. And I've seen some people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building a personal brand that generates no sustainable business. So why does everyone keep talking about personal branding? Why has it become more important than ever? Well, something fundamental has changed in today's economy. The people who get found are increasingly winning over people who stay invisible. And if you're an expert, a consultant, a coach, an attorney, an advisor, a business owner, or someone whose expertise creates value, ignoring personal branding has become increasingly expensive. In this episode, you'll learn why. Now, if you think you know what personal branding is, I guarantee you're missing one of the required ingredients. My aim for the end of this episode is for you to have the complete picture and to know how to build the personal brand of a thought leader. Let's dive right in. For most of history, businesses have grown through relationships. Someone had a great experience with you, they told a friend, and that friend became a client. That's word of mouth. And by the way, referrals are still incredible. Referrals are often the highest quality leads that you'll ever get because trust has already been transferred before you have that first conversation. So if someone I trust tells me, you need to talk to this person, I'm going to listen. So I'm not here to tell you that referrals don't work. They do. The problem is that referrals alone are not enough. The world at large has no idea that you exist. So think about that for a moment. There are people searching for your help right now. They're searching for the exact problems that you solve. They're searching for that outcome that you help create, or they're searching for that expertise that you've spent years developing, and yet they're never going to find you. Not because you're not qualified, not because you're not the best option, simply because they don't know that you exist. So let's compare the two numbers. On one side, you have the number of people who might eventually be referred to you. And on the other side, you have the number of people actively searching for answers right now. Okay, compare those numbers. The second number is exponentially larger. Referrals will always be valuable, but they're inherently limited. They're unpredictable. You can't control when they happen, and you can't scale them easily. Most business owners feel uncomfortable constantly asking for referrals. But meanwhile, something revolutionary has happened. People no longer wait for referrals before looking for help. They search. They search on Google, they search on YouTube, and increasingly they search on ChatGPT. So they describe their problem or they ask questions, they look for guidance, and then they trust the people who consistently show up with helpful answers. That's one of the biggest economic shifts in our lifetime. The buying journey now starts with a search, not a salesperson, not an advertisement, a search. And this creates an incredible opportunity for experts because for the first time in history, you don't need a television network, a publishing company, or a massive advertising budget to become discoverable. You simply need to be positioned where your audience is already looking. Now, the experts who understand this are building something very powerful, not just a referral-based business, but a trust-based discovery system, a system that allows strangers to find them, learn from them, trust them, and eventually become clients. In other words, they're creating referral quality leads at scale. And that's exactly where personal branding becomes so important, because personal branding isn't about becoming famous, it's about becoming findable. Now, here's a hard truth that a lot of experts don't want to hear. The best expert doesn't automatically win. I wish that weren't true. I wish expertise alone determined who got hired and who got trusted, who built the biggest impact, but that's not the world we live in. I've met countless experts who are absolute hidden gems. They have the knowledge, they have the experience, they've spent years developing their craft. They've helped clients get incredible results, so they have a proven track record, and yet very few people know that they exist. Meanwhile, there are other people with less experience, less expertise, and sometimes less impressive results who seem to dominate the conversation. Why is that? Because expertise and visibility are not the same thing. Being good at what you do is incredibly important. In fact, it's the foundation for everything, but being good is no longer enough. People have to find you. Think about how business worked historically. Most businesses operated in a local economy. People knew who you were. They saw your work. They talked about you at church, at community events, and at neighborhood gatherings. Over time, you built this reputation. Your reputation created trust, and that trust created business. But today's economy is different. Most experts no longer serve only their local market. A coach in Texas can serve clients in London. An attorney can become known nationwide. A consultant can work with companies all around the world. The opportunity is bigger than it's ever been before, but so is the competition. So that's where many experts get stuck. They're still relying on a local economy growth strategy in a global economy world. They're waiting for referrals. They're hoping people will talk about them. They're hoping their reputation will somehow spread. But reputation doesn't travel nearly as far as discoverability. The reality is that there are people searching for your expertise every single day. People who need your help, people who would gladly hire you, people who have never heard your name. Unless you've intentionally positioned yourself to be found, they're going to hire somebody else. Not because that somebody else is better, not because that person has more experience, but because that person was visible. That's why I see personal branding as the bridge between expertise and this searchability. First, you develop expertise. Secondly, you build a business around that expertise. But third, and this is where most people stop short, you position yourself as a thought leader. You make your expertise discoverable. In today's economy, the goal isn't just to be the best. The goal is to be the best expert people can actually find. Now let's talk about trust. Not because trust is everything, not because trust magically solves every business problem, but because the way trust is built has fundamentally changed. Think about traditional advertising. An ad interrupts you. You're watching a video, reading an article, listening to a podcast, but then suddenly something appears demanding your attention. The very nature of advertising is to interrupt. And because of that, most people have learned to put their guard up. They're skeptical, they're defensive. They assume that someone is trying to sell them something, and they're right. So what happens? Well, a potential client schedules a call, but instead of beginning with trust, the conversation begins with skepticism. You have to prove yourself. You have to overcome objections. You have to lower their defenses that were raised long before you ever met. That's why so many sales conversations feel difficult. You're trying to overcome mistrust that was created by the marketing itself. Consumers have changed. People don't simply believe what a company says about itself anymore. They investigate, they compare, they research, they watch videos, they read reviews, they search on Google, they ask ChatGPT. They consume content from multiple sources before making a decision. And something fascinating happens during that process. Trust starts forming before the first conversation, long before someone fills out a contact form, long before they schedule a call with you or become a lead. They're already evaluating. They're already learning. They're already deciding whether you understand their problem. In many cases, they've made up their mind before they ever schedule a call with you. This is one of the biggest shifts in modern business. The buying process no longer starts when someone talks to your sales team. It starts when they begin searching for answers. And the experts who consistently provide those answers gain a tremendous advantage, not because they're interrupting people, they're helping people. They're not demanding attention, but they're organically earning trust. Every helpful video, every insightful article, every question answered, every problem solved, it all compounds. The person searching does not feel marketed to. They feel understood, and that's a completely different experience. So by the time they reach out, they aren't wondering whether you're qualified. They've already seen your expertise. They've already learned from you. They've already begun to trust you. That's why these leads feel almost identical to referrals. That trust transfer happened before the conversation ever began. And that's where personal branding becomes so powerful. At its highest level, personal branding isn't about self-promotion. It's about creating trust at scale. It's about helping people before they ever become clients. In today's economy, the experts who earn trust before the first conversation are the ones who win. Now, something happened that accelerated all of this. AI arrived. When ChatGPT launched, many experts worried that AI would replace them. But that's not what happened. AI became an answer engine. People now describe their problems, they ask questions, and they seek guidance directly from AI. And when AI generates answers, it draws from expertise that's already been documented online. In other words, the experts who have shared their knowledge publicly have become easier to discover than ever before. This isn't a threat. It's one of the biggest opportunities experts have ever had. Because people aren't searching less, they're searching more. They're just using new tools to do it. So this brings us back to personal branding. If discoverability matters more than ever, and trust is increasingly built before the first conversation, then what actually makes a strong personal brand? Most people only see one piece of the puzzle, and in reality, there are three. So now that we've talked about how the economy has changed, let's talk about personal branding. Most people think personal branding is one thing, but it's actually three. The first is your image. This is how you look, your website, your logo, your photography, your branding, your style guide, everything people see when they encounter your brand. The second is your messaging. This is your ability to clearly communicate who you help, the problem that you solve, that transformation that you provide, okay? And the third is positioning. This is where my definition differs from most people. Most people think positioning is part of your image. Well, I don't. I define positioning as where you're found. When someone searches for answers in your category, do they find you? Do they find your videos? Do they find your content? Do they find your expertise? These are the three parts of personal branding: image, messaging, positioning, and you need all three. Unfortunately, most experts only focus on the first one. They invest in photography. They redesign their website. They create an amazing logo. They hire a branding agency. They develop a beautiful style guide. Now, all of these things are important. You should absolutely do them, but there's a problem. You can look like a thought leader and still be invisible. I've seen experts spend tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, creating a professional brand presence, and then they sit there waiting for the phone to ring. Image alone doesn't create discoverability, and if people can't find you, your expertise remains hidden. This is why positioning has become so important. Think about your dream clients. Every day they're searching for answers. They're searching on Google, they're searching on YouTube, they're asking these questions on ChatGPT. They're actively looking for solutions. So the question isn't whether they're searching, the question is whether they're finding you. Because if they don't find you, they'll find somebody else. Not necessarily someone better or more experienced, just someone that's more visible. When people repeatedly find you answering their questions, something powerful happens. They begin to trust you. They begin to see you as the ultimate authority. They begin to associate you with the solution that they're looking for. That is positioning. And that's why it's more important today than it's ever been before. When all three pieces come together, everything changes. People can find you. They understand exactly how you can help them, and they trust you before the first conversation. As a result, you attract better opportunities. You generate higher quality leads. Your sales conversations become easier. Your sales cycles become shorter. And many of your leads begin to feel remarkably similar to referrals. Not because somebody referred them, but because trust was established before they ever reached out to you. You become less dependent on cold outreach, less dependent on paid advertising, less dependent on hoping someone happens to recommend you. Instead, people find you when they need you. That's economic leverage. The opportunity has never been bigger. There are people searching for answers right now. They need expertise. They need guidance. They need someone that they can trust. So the question isn't whether those people exist, it's just a question of, do they find you? Over the next few years, the experts who win won't be the most famous. They're going to be the most discoverable. They'll be the experts who combine credibility and clarity with positioning. They'll be the experts who become thought leaders. That's why personal branding matters. Now, if you want to understand how personal branding evolves into real authority, how experts become the recognized thought leader in their category, and how positioning, trust, expertise, and discoverability work together, then watch my episode, What is Thought Leadership? In that episode, I break down exactly what separates an influencer from an expert, and an expert from a thought leader, and how ordinary experts become the recognized authority in their industry. I'll see you there.